This is one of the common sort of dictums among spiritual masters, that more damage has been done to them by their disciples than by the rest of the people. Now, we have often talked about life being a journey, and this journey has both these components, the training and the tests. In a series based on the compilation of the Mother's works, The Great Adventure, today we shall take up a passage which is on page 111. Now, this passage is about the type of arrogance or boasting that might come to people who are on the spiritual path. Boasting, showing off, being too conscious of one's strengths and abilities, displaying it. Now, these are things which are not considered good even normally. And even when people try to do these things, they try to do it in a subtle way, in an indirect way, in an apologetic manner, and it is not considered in good form. But this is a risk that is there not only in the ordinary world but also on the spiritual path, because once a person has made some progress, then it's easy for this person to see, and in a very objective manner, that now he's quite different from the rest, and quite rightly also feels he's one notch above the masses. And yet the person has not gone to a level where he can completely transcend his ego and attribute all the progress that he has made to the divine grace, and the result is that he can indulge in some boasting. There might be a lot of spiritual pride, which can be more deadly than the ordinary ego or the ordinary pride, and that can be the downfall of this person. The mother in this particular passage talks about a contrary movement that takes place in the universal nature. When a person tries to boast about something, is very confident that now I am different from the rest, many things which are important to others don't matter to me, many things which may be able to tempt others don't bother me anymore, or that my faith is unshakable. When the person becomes too conscious of it, too confident of it, then there are adverse forces, hostile forces in the universal nature that come in and try to shatter this image of this person and make him conscious of where he really stands. There are many explanations why this happens. It may be that there is a certain force in nature that loves status quo, does not want people to progress beyond a point, wants human beings to remain ordinary human beings. It's not interested in the evolution of a higher consciousness on earth, and therefore these forces step in whenever they find that the status quo is at risk. But there is also a more positive way of looking at it, and the positive way is that these forces are also a creation of the divine, and they come in because they test the person, and there are some consequences that can help the person, whether the person passes the test or whether the person fails the test. In either way, these movements, these contrary movements, these hostile forces also serve a purpose. But the fact that such forces exist is something which is a part of our folklore. If somebody says that I never fall ill, something as simple as that, he is told, "Aise mat bolo, nazar lag jayegi." एंड अगर वो बीमार पड़ गया तो इसीलिए बीमार पड़े क्योंकि उस दिन कह रहे थे ना मैं कभी बीमार नहीं पड़ता. So that is something which is a part of our folklore, and it seems as if there is some truth in this assertion that when we try to talk about some positive achievement, it invites hostile forces which try to work in exactly the opposite direction. So let's go over this passage a little passage and then see what the mother says in this passage on page 111. In their relation with human beings, the hostile forces take a very wicked pleasure in testing them. For example, if you are not extremely strong and extremely sincere, and you tell yourself, "Oh, I am sure of my faith." This, for instance, among many other things, immediately something happens which is going to try to shake your faith completely. I suppose that is their diversion, their amusement. It's as if these hostile forces enjoy this. It is amusement for them to try and disturb this confidence that which this person has in what this person has achieved or where this person has reached in this spiritual progress. The places like the ashram tend to have a collection of people, whether those who live here or those who visit here, who have this spiritual bent of mind, and this type of consciousness, this type of awareness that I am different from the others is quite common among such people. And one of the common refrains is that the others don't understand me. In the rest of the family, they don't cooperate with me. They misunderstand me. They tell me, तुम्हें जीना नहीं आता, तुम्हें खाना ठीक तरह नहीं आता, तुम्हें कपड़े ठीक तरह पहनने नहीं आते, तुम्हें रहना नहीं आता, तुम्हें enjoy करना नहीं आता. And sometimes they say कि तुम्हें रिश्ते नाते ठीक तरह रखने नहीं आते. You don't maintain relationships properly. किसी की परवाह नहीं करते. आश्रम में जाते हो, अपने लोगों को पूछते नहीं हो. So all types of complaints people have about them, and they feel that I am right, I am different, and somehow I am better than the rest. So that is an implied thing when people are talking about their difficulties in dealing with the other people, whether it is in the family or at the workplace or with the society in general. When they are complaining that it is the others who misunderstand them, don't cooperate with them, create more difficulties for them when it comes to walking on the path. When they are saying all this, what they are implying is that somehow I am better, but it is because of the others who are not so good who create for me that I am having all these problems. So this is something extremely common, and therefore this passage in a way has a lot of relevance to us. The mother has talked once elsewhere about a story of a spiritual guru who was with his disciples, and they were going to have dinner together. The table had been laid, and then these disciples told this guru to display some powers. These powers are called siddhis, and these are sort of feats which border on the miraculous, but such people can perform them. Although that is not the goal of yoga, they are byproducts, they just happen because this person is now truly aligned with the divine, and therefore requires some of those capacities which are divine in nature and transcend the ordinary human abilities. So that's how this person is able to do these, whether they are in the physical sphere, like being able to live without air or food for long periods of time, or walking on the fire, or whether they are in the mental sphere, the person being aware of what is happening thousands of miles away or what is going on in somebody else's mind. Now these are the types of feats that they can perform, or if somebody is ill, healing that person, having that person cured. Now these are all things which are realities. These people can do them. These powers come to them as byproducts of their spiritual quest. But while talking about these siddhis, Patanjali says that these should not be used, and if they are used, if they are displayed, then the person cannot go to the next higher stage, and therefore they become an impediment to further progress. And this, the person says, Patanjali says, is in fact one of the last tests that the person has to go through, because if the person gets this feeling that I have done so much, I have done so much in the terms of observed so much of discipline, gone through so many years of discipline, and given up so many ordinary pleasures of life, and as a result of that this has come to me. So at least this is one thing that I must hold on to and use and display and show, because it is the result of a long spiritual discipline. So if the person gets this feeling, then the person fails the test, because if the person can give up these things which have come to him after such a long discipline, then the person has really learnt to transcend the ego, which means that even this the person should be ready to give up and go beyond, move on. So one can move on only if the person is not attached even to the capability for performing these so-called miracles. So this spiritual guru was told by his disciples to perform some such miracle. Initially he thought that he should not, because that is the norm. Generally we don't try and show these things. So because this is something which is a traditional injunction as well as common sense. Not to talk about one's spiritual experiences, not to talk about any special abilities which the person might have, which is somewhat contrary to common sense, because common sense wise the general advice which applies for practical purposes in everyday life is that if you are able to show something, if you are able to do something openly, you don't care if anybody is watching you doing it, then it is good. If you feel the necessity to hide something, then it is bad. So that is one of the tests used for whether it is good or bad. If you can do something openly, then it is good. If you have a tendency to hide it, you want to do it where nobody is watching you. Nobody means no human being is watching you. If one feels like doing it only such a place, then it is not good. But here is something which is good. The person has not done anything wrong, and yet the person wants to hide it. The person doesn't want to do it openly. The person doesn't want to talk about it openly. So in that sense, it's an exception. And this comes from within as well as from the traditional injunctions that these things are not to be talked about, these things are not to be displayed. So this spiritual guru was quite aware of that when he was told to perform some such feat. But then he thought that, well, once in a while I can do it, because at least it will show them that such things are also possible, and that will stimulate them to themselves progress further on the path, because they will feel that if we continue on the path, then we will also be able to do such things. So this will provide an incentive to them to make further progress. So you see, now the intellect can be very versatile. Intellect can justify just about whatever we want. So his intellect also justified displaying something, performing a miracle. And he told them, okay, I'll show you something. Now, if you remove the table from under the tablecloth, the tablecloth will not fall. All the plates and crockery, cutlery, everything that is there on the tablecloth, everything will stay as it is. You can remove the table. You can remove the support from underneath the tablecloth. They said, how can that happen? It will fall immediately. No, you just do what I am saying and you'll see it. It will not happen. So they removed the table, and the tablecloth stayed where it was. Everything was lying on it. Nothing happened, didn't fall. So they're all very impressed. They were impressed, but then this spiritual guru suddenly realized that he had done something wrong. He had failed the divine that had given him this capability, this ability to do it. And he said, I'll never do it again. I'll never have any more disciples. Why any more disciples? Because it was they who had compelled him to do it. And this is one of the common sort of dictums among spiritual masters, that more damage has been done to them by their disciples than by the rest of the people. By the type of idolization and deification that the disciples indulge in, sometimes they do them more harm than the general public. So he said, I'll have no more disciples and no more of this. So this is one of the stories that the mother has told. Now, how do these hostile forces which come in and try to demolish this person's confidence in what the person has already achieved, how do these forces help? These forces help by reminding the person that he still needs more work, more inner work, because the person may not be able to do what this person was confident that he'll be able to do. So if the person thinks that I have unshakable faith, and then something contrary to that faith happens, then this person's faith is shaken. Something goes wrong, and then the person gets angry. The person feels that why did it happen to me? Then this person knows that some more work is needed. Or the person feels that now I'm completely calm and peaceful. When I'm sitting in meditation, nothing will disturb me, and somebody disturbs him and this person gets angry. Then again, he's being tested that yes, more inner work is needed. So these hostile forces which come in and try and shake this person's confidence, they also in a way serve a purpose. How many times when someone boasts, it may be very childishly, but when someone boasts about something, oh, I am sure of that, I shall never make that mistake. Immediately I see a hostile formation passing there like that, and it enters by the little hole made by the boasting. So boasting, in a way sort of it creates a chink, a hole, a gap in the armor, in the spiritual armor. It enters within like that and then penetrates, and so prepares everything for you to do exactly what you did not want to. But this is an amusement. It is certainly not to help you progress. But if you know how to take it, it does help you progress. So probably the purpose of this is not to help the person progress. The purpose is to maintain status quo. But if the person knows how to accept even this, then even these hostile forces can be a help to progress. You say, good, another time I will not boast. So at least the person resolves not to do it again. The way this spiritual guru, who let this tablecloth stay there, he resolved never again. And that itself is a step forward. Now, we have often talked about life being a journey, and this journey, has both these components, the training and the tests. Like, somebody is learning driving. First, the person undergoes a training, and then before getting the license, the person has to take a test as to how much the person has actually learnt during the training. So life also consists of both the training, which is our usual everyday life, in which we are getting so many opportunities for spiritual growth. Grihasth, which is often considered a necessary evil, is also a part of that training, because it is in there that the person gets to shower unconditional love on near and dear ones, particularly one's children. It is there that the person learns to say sorry, even if the person has made no mistake, as it happens between husband and wife. It is there that a person learns that one has to do a lot for others and yet expect nothing in return. Not only expect nothing in return, what the person may get in return is a lot of criticism. Now, so in that sense, Grihasth is very good training for going beyond common sense, going beyond what the normal human expectations are, and learning more and more to give, because love is essentially about giving, to give unconditionally, to give whatever we have to those who need it. That is essentially what love consists of. And that way grihasth is a training. But then along with that training come also in our everyday life tests, particularly in the form of unexpected events and circumstances. How we can cope with those. Now these tests find out whether enough has been learnt from the training. And there's a story about a teacher who once told his students, don't get angry. And then he asked the next day, what was it that I taught you yesterday? Everybody says don't get angry, but one of the students said, I don't remember. So the teacher told him, okay, come prepared tomorrow. So the next day he asked him, what was the lesson? He again said, I don't remember. So this went on for a few days, and then finally this teacher got angry. That's such a simple sentence, don't get angry, you have not been able to learn. So the student said, sir, you just got angry yourself. And that is exactly why I was saying I haven't learned the lesson, because I was not sure whether I'll be able to control my anger. So till I'm able to control my anger, I can't say that I have really learnt the lesson. So learning a lesson is different from just knowing it by heart. And these tests tell us how much we have learnt from that training. And in these, whether we call them unexpected events and circumstances or whether we call them hostile forces, these are tests which come as surprise tests. We don't expect them. They come uninvited and they test us. If we pass the test, there is something to be gained, and if we fail the test, again something is to be gained. If we pass the test, once again we are reminded that what I had cultivated is important, and I don't have to be proud about it. It is good that I passed the test, but there might be more tests and harder tests, and I have to remember. So, that is a positive way of sort of going through the test. It is a sort of a reminder, because what we thought we have cultivated, it was really required. And the way, this teacher needed, because of the student, a situation was created where he needed to remember not to get angry. So, by creating that type of a situation, these tests remind us of what we feel that we have achieved, and if we pass the test, we know that, well, I passed it this time, next time the test might be harder, I still have to remember. On the other hand, if the person fails the test, that also teaches humility, and the person knows that a lot of inner work still needs to be done. And the failure can show up on the spiritual path in many different ways. It can show up in the form of anger. Anger, why did it have to happen to me? Why did this person treat me like this? Why did this person disturb my meditation? So it can come in different ways, the anger can come, and what it teaches us or tests us on is whether we can maintain our equanimity, whether we can forgive someone who has hurt us. So that is what this test was for, and if we get angry, we fail the test, and we know that still some more inner work is needed. It can come in the form of a fear. We feel that, well, I have full faith in God, I am not afraid about the future, whatever will happen, the mother will take care of it. So I am not afraid. Then there's an earthquake, and the person suddenly gets scared. Or the person has an illness and the person is scared. It may be an incurable illness. Is it cancer? The person is afraid. So, these are things which can test the person, which means the faith was there, but the faith was still not unshakable. There was something wanting in that faith. So, that is how it can come in the form of a fear. And which means that the person was still at the mental level of consciousness, because all progress is about the growth of consciousness going beyond the mental level. Fear, anxiety, a sense of insecurity, these are all feelings which come from the mental level, because it is the very nature of the mental part of the being, the intellect, to think of all the possibilities, to think of what might happen, and to build up the worst case scenario, what I can do about it, and sometimes that I will not be able to do enough about it, I am not adequately prepared. What will happen in old age? What will happen if I fall ill? What will happen if the money that I have will not be enough because of the inflation being what it is? Now these are all fears which are coming from the mental level, different types of fears and anxieties. What will happen if my child does not look after me? Now these are all things which are fears, and they come from the mental level because of what we are thinking. We are thinking ahead and building up all these fears and anxieties and insecurities. Now what it means is our faith is being tested. And then suppose something does go wrong, and we either get angry or we go into a depression. Now that again is testing our faith. We pray and the prayer is not answered the way we wanted it to be. Again, our faith is being tested. Probably the prayer was not heard. Probably the divine is not there. Probably the divine doesn't care. The divine doesn't love me. So, all these negative feelings, they are testing our faith. So, if the faith is unshakable, none of these things will happen. The third way in which this failure on a test can show up is through frustration. Not getting what one wants. And frustration, disappointment. Now, if the faith is total, if sufficient progress has been made on the spiritual path, then the person does not insist on his prayers being heard the way he wants them to be. The person does not insist on all his wishes being fulfilled. The person is ready to accept both the fulfillment of the desire as well as it's not getting fulfilled. And either way, he can accept it with equanimity, with gratitude, and remain contented. Now, frustration also therefore becomes a sign of not having passed the spiritual tests. Now, here's a small list of the different types of spiritual tests that the person might have. Some of these we have already talked about here and there. One of the probably most important is fear. Fear, you see, is some fears are well founded. For example, the fear of jumping from a great height, or the fear of being run over by a car while crossing the road. Now these are fears which are well founded and they have a protective function. They help us remain safe. Those fears are okay, but then those are fears about which we don't have to worry about, which should lead to only taking adequate precautions. But that does not mean that those fears are in themselves invalid. Those are inbuilt, they are meant to be protective, and if we take adequate precautions, these fears will not materialize by and large. So those are different types of fears. But the other types of fears are about things which nobody can help, which nobody can predict, about what might happen in the future because of our own mistakes, because of accidents, because of unforeseen things, because of others getting against us or not behaving as we expect them to. Now, those are the types of fears which are essentially mental constructs and reflect a lack of trust in the divine to take care of things. Another test is having power. If a person has power, is the power being used properly? The head of a country, the head of an organization, the head of a family, they all have different types of powers. And in each case, there are some people who depend upon the person who has the power. Their welfare depends upon this person who has the power. Is he taking those decisions which will help those who depend upon him? Or is he trying to use that power to corner more resources for himself, to get more privileges, to get more comforts? Is he trying to do that? Now that becomes another type of test which comes in life. And if the person boasts that I have this power because I have worked so hard, because I deserve it, then again the person will only end up misusing the power, displaying the power, boasting about this power, but not really using it for the purpose for which it has been given. Money can also be a test, both having too much money and having very little money. Both are tests. If the person has too much money, then does the person realize that this money has been given to me by the divine? It has come to me because I have certain talents which have been given to me by the divine. The talent to make money is also a talent that comes from the divine. The person works hard, but everybody who works hard does not make too much money. There are many people working extremely hard and yet remaining very poor. It's only sort of a combination of hard work, a certain type of work which is valued in society, and good luck. It's a combination of these that brings wealth, and that is a combination that has very little to do with the person's personal efforts. More is because of what the person has been given. So if the person realizes that, then the person makes use of this to help those whom he can help with the help of what he has. Now this is the concept of trusteeship, which Sri Aurobindo and the mother have talked about, which Mahatma Gandhi talked about. The concept of trusteeship. The owner of wealth is not actually its owner, he is only a trustee. He has been entrusted with the faith that he will use this privilege, use this wealth properly. Using it properly means use it for the purpose where it can help relieve somebody's misery. He is not really helping those people whose misery he is relieving. They are helping him by providing him an opportunity to use the special talents and gifts that he has for fulfilling the purpose of life. Because he is not helping in the sense that their problems don't really disappear because of this help, and certainly those problems do not disappear from the world. If the problems had to disappear from the world because certain people were helpful, because they were philanthropic by nature, the problems of the world would have disappeared long back, because so many philanthropists and reformers and people who have sacrificed so much in so many different ways, they have come and gone, and yet the problems of the world continue. So really in that sense we are not helping anyone, and the problems of the world will not come to an end till the level of consciousness of the average level of consciousness of the human race has gone up significantly. And that is what the assurance Sri Aurobindo and the mother have given, that yes, that will happen pretty soon, but till that happens on a sufficiently large scale and we have that critical mass of people who are at that higher level of consciousness, the problems of human existence will not disappear, no matter how many philanthropists and social reformers come and go. So in that sense, this person is not really helping anyone. But that doesn't mean that this work is not important. The work is important because at least this is helping this person fulfill the purpose of his own life, and through inspiration, the inspiration that he provides, through the effect that he radiates, he is inspiring many others to walk the same path and rise in consciousness. So that way this person is serving a purpose, but all the same he is not really helping anyone or wiping away a problem. So having money, having wealth is also a test. Bill Gates, who's one of the best known philanthropists today, he says that his mother used to say, from those to whom much has been given, much is expected. Now this leaves unsaid the divine part. From those to whom much has been given by the divine, much is expected by the divine. So from there it comes and to there it goes. If the person realizes it, then he lives a life which is full of love, peace and joy, and fulfills also the purpose of his life. If the person does not do it that way, then it may not make too much difference to the world, but it makes a lot of difference to this person because he misses an opportunity, a good opportunity that he was given to fulfill the purpose of his life. It makes no significant difference to the world because the world by and large continues to be as it is, irrespective of what every individual wealthy person is doing or not doing. Of course, Mahatma Gandhi has held out also a threat that if those who have money, they do not behave like trustees, trusteeship will be imposed upon them by a revolution. Well, these revolutions also often come, like the communist revolution. But then those are again historical incidents, come once in a while, and apparently seem to achieve something, but then things are back to square one because of the basic level of consciousness. Because that's what happened in communist countries also, and this is something which was foreseen by George Orwell. Some of you might have read that story Animal Farm by George Orwell, in which he talks about a community of animals who feel that the human beings were exploiting them. They all lived on a farm, and they felt that the human being who owned that farm, he was exploiting them, made them work very hard, didn't give them good food, even enough of food, and they thought, we'll run away from this farm, have our own society where things will be based on equality, from each according to his capacity to each according to his needs. The basic communist principle. From each according to his capacity and to each according to his needs. So we'll establish a society based on that principle. So one night the animals run away from that farm and establish their own community. For some time things continue quite well, but then they realize that to be able to coordinate the activities of their society, they need a coordinator. So they choose the pigs as the coordinators because they come to the conclusion that they are the most intelligent amongst them. So the pigs are appointed the coordinators. The equivalent of the government. Then what happens? These pigs gradually start saying that we have to work so hard, we have to do mental work, we have to take critical decisions which affect the welfare of the entire community, and therefore we need a little better treatment. So gradually they start getting better food, keeping better food for themselves, better place to live, a more comfortable place. So they start cornering more and more of the resources. And finally a day comes when all the animals start feeling that the pigs are exploiting them more than the human beings did. So that is essentially what happens in communist societies also, because a time came when the president of the USSR was living in greater luxury than the president of the USA. So that's what brought the downfall of the communist countries, of communism in much of the world. That broke down. So anyway, so what I started with was that if trusteeship is not accepted voluntarily, Gandhiji said that trusteeship will be imposed upon the wealthy by a revolution, and that, he said, will not only be bad for them because in that revolution they might die, but he said that will be bad also for the society. That will be bad for the society because the society will lose a large number of people who have the talent to make money. Making money is also a talent. So a large number of talented people will die. That itself is a loss to the society. So, that was a very perceptive thought that he gave us. So anyway, so having too much money is a spiritual test, and in the same way having too little money is also a spiritual test. Having too little money, can we restrict our desires? Can we remain contented? So having less money is also a test. Having any particular unique gift or talent or blessing is also a test, because that talent is meant to be used. It is meant to be used for giving something to those who need it. So whether that gift is in the form of knowledge, whether that gift is in the form of being able to sing, whether it is in the form of art, or whether it is in the form of making money, or whether the gift is being compassionate by nature. Now, whatever the gift may be, and these gifts come in different forms, and we all have some or the other unique gift, and none of us has all of them. And it is enough to have just a few, because those few then can be used for doing something for those who need what we are uniquely placed to do, what we can do better than most other people. And if we recognize this privilege, how this talent comes to us, and how we are able to fulfill the purpose of our life by giving through that talent something to others, we would be quite happy living a life like that, and will not ask for the type of moksha which somehow has got into sort of our psyche, that we should somehow be able to escape from this cycle of life and death. We'll be happy to go on doing what we are uniquely placed to do, life after life, for thousands of lives if required. So we'll not be in a hurry to get that moksha, because true moksha can be achieved in this life itself, while living in the world. And what is that moksha? That moksha is being able to achieve happiness which is not dependent on external circumstances. You see, because very often we feel that our happiness depends upon how much money I have, whether I am healthy or not, what type of a house I have, how my husband or wife or children behave with me. And we say that, well, if all these things are okay, I can be quite happy. Well, if all these things are okay, then what is my contribution to happiness? My contribution to happiness comes only if some of these things are not okay, which is the usual thing in life. There's always a but in life, they say. I have this, this and this, but such and such thing is missing. So there's always a but in life. So which means that we should be able to stay happy as things are, with things as they are, and that happiness comes from within. Now, if a person is completely independent of these things which are outside us, which are our external circumstances, and the person can be happy doing what comes from within. And what comes from within is based on what we have, and we are able to give those who need it. That gives us immense joy. Now, that is a joy which not only has a superior feel as compared to the type of happiness we get from external circumstances like money or a good house or others behaving well with us. Now, those are all things which are a type of happiness, but the happiness which comes from giving what we have to give to those who need it is also a happiness, and this is superior to the happiness of getting something. The joy of giving is much greater than the happiness of getting something. And not only that, the joy of giving is something which is always in our own hands, because nobody can stop us from giving something, but we can't force anybody to give us something. And that is how if our happiness depends upon what we have to give, then our happiness is in our own hands. And that is how we become completely independent of external circumstances. And if something is given to us, for example, we are given a misfortune, that is also given to us by God. If we are able to accept that also as an opportunity for spiritual growth, for fulfilling the purpose of life, then again our happiness continues to be completely independent of external circumstances. So whether it is external material circumstances to which we can ourselves make some difference or try to make some difference to be more happy, or whether it is external circumstances which are imposed on us through unexpected events in life, either way, if our happiness can be independent of all external circumstances, then we have got a true handle on our happiness, and that is true moksha. Because we are no longer dependent. Having that freedom is true freedom or true liberation or true moksha. That reminds me of a little anecdote which Dr. Nadkarni. Many of you knew him. Dr. Nadkarni has cited in one of his books that once Lata Mangeshkar was asked, what is it that you would like as your sort of highest aspiration? She said, I would like to escape from this cycle of life and death. A very common, aspiration, and considered a very noble aspiration. But then Dr. Nadkarni says that if she had a more life-accepting view of spirituality, she would not have said that. She would have instead said that in this life, God gave me the talent to sing, and that brought happiness to a very large number of people in India. In my next life, I would like to have the same talent and give this type of happiness to people, say in China or Japan or Africa or the US. So that way I can go on life after life for thousands of lives and give more and more happiness to more and more people in different parts of the world. I'm ready to do that. So that is what she would have said. Perhaps if she had a more life-affirming view of spirituality, the type of view that Sri Aurobindo and the mother talk about. So that is about using the gifts and talents properly. Then getting hurt because of someone who is near to us, close to us, a near and dear one, saying something which hurts us. Now that is also a test. A test whether we have the capacity to forgive. It's easy to say that yes, nobody can hurt me, and if somebody hurts me, I quickly forgive, I forget about it, and I forgive. But till it has actually happened, it is not put to test. So if somebody is doing that, that person is also giving us an opportunity to test whether we can actually practice that forgiveness. And it is something which is not easy. Even when we say I have forgiven, it keeps coming up again and again. We keep thinking about it. We may not show it, we may not talk about it, we may not express it, but it's not easy. And what it means is that we still need some work to do within so that we can practice genuine forgiveness. And that is how someone who hurts us, that person is also helping us. Another type of spiritual test is a temptation. Temptation for various types of sensory pleasures. And if the person gives in to that temptation, realizing that it is not good for me or it is unethical, then the person has again failed the test, and that should remind the person that still more work needs to be done. And if the person passes the test, then again it only reinforces that positive quality in the person and tells him that, well, I had cultivated this quality, it came in handy, it saved me from this disaster, and that I should further strengthen it, not forget it even in future, because the next temptation might be stronger. That doesn't mean that one should not enjoy anything. For example, food is a temptation. Good food is a temptation. That doesn't mean that one should not have good food at all, food which one likes. But the important thing is not to be attached to it. Because one can take that food, enjoy it also, because to say that I am not enjoying it would be telling a lie. One can enjoy it, but one has to realize that that's only a fleeting pleasure. That is not something on which our happiness can depend or should depend, because that is something which is not going to last. That is something which one can't take for granted, which one can't get every time, any time one wants. And therefore, that happiness should not depend upon that. If one does that, if that inner detachment is there, then the person can actually enjoy it more. Because then the person is not plagued by the insecurity. When will I get it again? Will I get it again? Enjoy it right now, in this moment. And since there is no inner attachment to it, next time when it comes, I'll accept it. If it does not come, I will not miss it. So that is how one can make one's happiness independent of this external circumstance which can be tempting. That's what the ईशा उपनिषद has said, तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजिथा. उनका त्याग करो और उनका भोग करो. दोनों ही चीज़ें कैसे कर सकते हैं? How can you both renounce and enjoy? One can truly enjoy only if one has renounced internally. That is the difference between tyag and sannyas. Tyag is within, sannyas is outer physical renunciation. So here the talk is about tyag. उनका त्याग करो और उनका भोग करो, which means renounce internally, give up the inner dependence or attachment to the object, and then you can enjoy it more. There's no harm in enjoying pleasures which are legitimate, which are legally and morally acceptable. If they come, enjoy them, but don't be dependent on them. So that is the attitude. So that is, so temptation is also a test. It's a test about how much independent we have become of tempting objects. So the tests can come in different forms, and they come in a way as a hostile sort of force when we are extremely confident of what we have already achieved. We feel very confident that I am above all these things now, these things will not affect me, and then starts that wave of a hostile formation, that hostile force which comes to test us. And as if there is some sort of a link between our developing this extreme confidence that now I have risen above all these things, and this test appearing as a result of this hostile force. And we should try to pass these tests, recognize these tests for what they are, and use these tests for reinforcing and strengthening the lesson. And if perchance we fail, then again in yoga we don't go on a guilt trip. Well, I failed, but then it means that I need to do more work. So I do more of that inner work so that next time I pass the test. It doesn't mean that I just remain in that with that sense of guilt. We don't take that too far. We just sort of resolve not to make the same mistake again, and realize that still there is a lot more to do, still a long journey to complete, a lot of inner work still needs to be done. So it's a reminder for that. Can read the passage again before ending. In their relation with human beings, the hostile forces take a very wicked pleasure in testing them. For example, if you are not extremely strong and extremely sincere, and you tell yourself, "Oh, I am sure of my faith," this, for instance, among many other things, immediately something happens which is going to try to shake your faith completely. This is one, I suppose, that is their diversion, their amusement. How many times when someone boasts? It may be very childishly, but when someone boasts about something, "Oh, I am sure of that, I shall never make that mistake," immediately I see a hostile formation passing there like that, and it enters by the little hole made by the boasting. It enters within like that and then penetrates, and so prepares everything for you to do exactly what you did not want to. But this is an amusement, it is certainly not to help you progress. But if you know how to take it, it does help you to progress. You say, "Good, another time I will not boast." It's a good question, and of course a very deep question which one can go on for a long time. The question is that if life is a journey, where does it begin? Where does it end? And do we have some indications to tell us whether we are on the right path, whether we are making progress, whether we are getting nearer the goal? In terms of Vedanta, the journey of life is very long. It's not actually the journey of this life, it is the journey of the soul, and that continues from life to life. This life is one episode in a long series of such earthly lives. The importance of this life as compared to the long interludes between two earthly lives is that it is only in this life on earth, only this life means only through life on earth that we can evolve spiritually and go to a higher level of evolution in the manifestation. So that is the importance of the life on earth. So in that sense, the beginning and the end are nebulous, ill-defined. We do not know exactly the starting point and the finishing point of this journey. The finishing point, according to some, would be a point beyond which we need not return to this earth, because the evolution has reached a point where the person has become one with the divine. The person can organize his life entirely around his divine essence. His body and mind are working entirely in the light of that. So the body and the mind have become one with the divine essence. So they are no longer have the imperfections of manifestation, and then this person need not come to earth again. But Sri Aurobindo particularly has been sort of careful to point out that that need not be so. Even after reaching there, the person may come back, and there is a point in coming back to help others and also to be able to enjoy the drama of the world from a higher plane of consciousness. Because that itself is a pleasure. You are not affected by it, you are participating in it, and yet not you are yet not attached to it, and you are not affected by it. So to be able to watch this entire play, this drama, from that higher plane of consciousness is a joy in itself. And for that, and to be able to inspire and help other fellow beings, the person may still continue to come back. So in that sense, there is no well-defined, definitive end point for this journey. But then what is more important from the immediate point of view is this particular life, which starts with our birth in this life and ends with death. Whether on that journey we are making progress and we are on the right track. This is something which the person himself can tell best by seeing whether it is becoming gradually easier for this person to respond to choices in everyday life, and the way the person responds to unexpected events and circumstances. Is that changing? Is that becoming something which is more in keeping with the divine essence of the person? Which means that in everyday life, when the person is getting choices to make, is he finding that it's easier for him now to make those choices from the deepest level, that is from the level of the psychic being, and the extent to which his vital and mental, that is the emotional part of the being and the intellect, are collaborating with that, are speaking in the same voice as the soul, which means that the conflict is gradually going down, the vital and the mental are getting transformed so that they are gradually speaking more and more in the same voice as the psychic being. So when the person finds that this conflict is disappearing, and therefore it is becoming easier for this person to make the right choices in spite of the difficulties and hardships that it may involve. So if the person finds that it is becoming easier to do that, then the person is on the right path, he is progressing. And in the same way, how is he responding to unexpected events and circumstances, particularly the unpleasant ones? And if the person finds that he is now responding to them without getting upset, he is responding to them by accepting them happily, seeing in those unpleasant circumstances also an opportunity for spiritual growth, and therefore the unpleasantness does not bother him anymore. He does not in fact find it unpleasant. He is able to accept these also happily as prasad from the divine with prasad buddhi. So if the person finds that he is able to do that, then the person is progressing. So whether he is in that direction, that is what tells the person that he is, say, if he is going from Delhi to Agra, then he has reached, say, Mathura, and then he is on the right path. Firstly, we have to see whether you are hearing two voices or there is no conflict. If there is no conflict and you are very sure that the choice that you are making will give immense joy and lasting mental peace, then one knows that it is the voice of the psychic being. Let me ask him a question which I generally ask children. Summer has gone, but let's think a few months back, the month of June, July, when it was very hot. Suppose you got 10 rupees from your mother every day to buy ice cream. One day you told her that today I want to buy a bigger ice cream. Please give me 20 rupees. And she gave you 20 rupees. When you reached the place, the mother dairy booth or wherever you go to get the ice cream, when you reached there, you found that there was one more poor child standing there. When you asked for ice cream, he also thought that I should also have an ice cream. And then it occurred to you, this boy also wants ice cream, but I think he doesn't have the money. So you had the choice of buying the ice cream for 20 rupees as you had planned, or buying two ice creams for 10 rupees each, the way you bought every day, having one yourself and giving one to this boy. What will you do? Suppose you buy only one ice cream and then you quickly walk away and start eating it. How will you feel? You will feel sad. In spite of eating the bigger ice cream, you will feel sad. And suppose you buy two ice creams, will you be happy? Yes. So that is the voice of the psychic being, you see. I never got a different answer from any child. Because he realized that it was not proper to show it. The mother, has said that if a special ability has been acquired, it can be used, but it should be used for the purpose for which the divine wants us to use it. It has been given by the divine, and if the divine wants us to use it for a certain purpose, then we can use it. The way Sri Aurobindo is said to have used his powers to influence the course of the Second World War. Now, that was a special power. But then he used it because he felt that otherwise the Asuric forces will take over and put back the progress of the world by many centuries. So that was a special use of that. You see, the answer again remains the same. At the mental level, we can always argue for something and against something. The important thing is not in a particular situation whether intellectually it can be justified, what its larger implications are, because we are not really changing the world through our actions. What is important is, as we asked this child, what is it that is contributing to his spiritual progress? By doing one thing, he takes one step towards the goal of life. By taking another thing, he takes one step away from the goal of life. That is what is important. And that comes from within. And the child, being simpler, does not go into all the types of complicated questions which we as adults start asking more and more. Well, firstly, if you are not convinced, at least there is no hurry to get convinced, because in practice it does not make much difference. The important thing is how we live this life. Whether we believe in rebirth or not doesn't affect how we should be living this life. That is not affected. Secondly, I think most people who are skeptical, they are not so much convinced by reading more and more of spiritual philosophy. Sri Aurobindo talks about it in The Life Divine, goes into rationalization of this also. He has talked about it in Savitri. So you can see those things. But I think what people who are skeptical, they are influenced more by is some books written by a psychiatrist, Brian Weiss. He is a psychiatrist who discovered that when he put during psychotherapy one of his patients on the couch, this person started going into previous lives, and it was only after going into her previous lives that many of the conflicts which he had in this life could be resolved. And then he was in a fix whether to share this knowledge with the rest of the world, because he thought that if he shares this with the rest of the world, people will think that now he has lost his own mind. But then eventually he did decide to share it through probably his first book was Many Lives, Many Masters. And then after that he had written a few more. So he sort of brings out how, what happens to us in this life, what we do in this life, how we think in this life, many of the irrational fears and conflicts that we have in this life are actually rooted in our previous lives. And as a psychiatrist, he found this useful, and now many psychiatrists go in for this type of work. In some selected patients where they feel necessary, they go in for past life regression. So this probably is one of the convincing ones. And another sort of, again, anecdote, but given by a person whom I would consider extremely reliable, Dr. N.V.C. Swami. He was once the director of IIT Chennai. Now this person is a devotee of Swami Vivekananda, and he spends a lot of time in Swami Vivekananda Kendra in Bangalore, where they also have a health center, but where they also admit a large number of people from outside Arogya Dham, where they have inpatients. So once he said that he was visiting some patient, and her husband was there, and he said that I want to talk to you. So he came and talked to me, and what he told me was that his wife actually knows something about her previous lives, at least one previous life. She knows about her previous life. Where she grew up, she started telling her parents that in her previous life she lived at such and such place, and she had died quite young, and she wanted to go there and meet those parents whom she had in her previous life. So then finally those parents agreed and they went there. But then her parents from that previous life, they were unwilling. They thought that probably there's some sort of cheating will be involved. Maybe they have some personal selfish interest, monetary interest or something, and that's why she has come to say that you were my parents in my previous life. So she told them that you did have a daughter who died at such and such age, young, of such and such disease. They said, yes, that is true. But then how do we know that you are the same person now in the next life? Now you have come back again to this earth. So she told them that, then they asked her, okay, they put a test for her, that she used to have a cupboard which was locked, and we could never find the key to that cupboard after she died. So if you tell us where the key is, then we'll believe it. She told them yes. There was some particular shelf on which there was a cover, and under that cover there was something, and under that hidden under a few things was that key. She went and took out the key. So that convinced them that she is the same person. So this is an anecdote which sort of shows that yes, most of us are born with that ignorance about previous lives, but there are exceptions, and probably these exceptions are also created by the divine to convince us that yes, this life is only one episode in a series of lives, and that is why these exceptions are put there. And why most of us are kept ignorant, that is also with a purpose, because that also saves a lot of difficulties and complications in this life. That ignorance is also useful to us. But a few exceptions are there, and they do remember their previous lives. And this is coming from a scientist, a person who was the director of IIT Chennai once upon a time. Meant a lot. Huh? No, Dr. Swami has not written any book on this. But this was an oral narration of an anecdote. Of course, after that he cracked a joke that I asked this person that your wife may be quite happy, she has two sets of parents, but how do you feel having two sets of in-laws? So I think we can end there.